was interesting how the author tackled death in a children's book, and I definitely will kind of take some tips from that. Woo. Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Here, my little book nook. So, you know what that means. It is the book review time for the month. It's been a bit of a hectic week, so I apologize for not getting this video out on my designated Saturdays. I'm really going to try to push to releasing a video every Saturday, but unfortunately I couldn't really do that this week. It was my birthday. I did a whole New York trip thing. I also started my new job. It's definitely a nice new challenge that I have to take, but with the new hours and me adjusting my sleep schedule and everything, I'm definitely not as on point with YouTube as I should be. So while I was up in New York, I snagged this little number and I read it on the road. So I thought I would give a book review on this. I want to say it is actually geared for middle school readers, or probably from 5th grade up to 7th grade or so. But I really do have in my heart a special place for the young reader books, even though it's kind of babyish, but I still love my Goosebump books. I have the Boxcar children books beside me that I used to read when I was little. So this book definitely made me feel like a kid again, which was a very carefree feeling to have. So I was reading this in the car ride when I drove from New York all the way down to Florida, here where I am now. So this book, it isn't an indie book, so I do want to disclaim that, but I found it interesting that this author, this was her first published book, and this also goes to show the power of, I actually found this in just a random thrift store. I looked on the back, old school style, never heard of this author before, and was just like, oh, this book actually sounds like it's kind of interesting. So I gave it a read and I ended up liking it quite a bit. Don't write out going to random bookstores, just finding a book that sparks your interest. You don't even care who the author is. Just try picking a book that, the name sounds interesting, the cover looks interesting, even though you shouldn't really judge it on the cover. But yeah, I want to say what really grabbed my interest about this book, the cover art really isn't that intriguing. So it wasn't the cover, but it was more so the font and the title that initially grabbed my attention. And then of course I just switched immediately to reading the back, which I found rather interesting. So this book is a young adult mystery about an 11-year-old girl who goes to her aunt and uncle's house to stay for the summer with her cousin Eleanor. The main character is named Amanda. So while Amanda is basically playing with the new neighborhood kids that she meets, she kind of runs into an unfortunate mystery. So she learns about the legend of this missing young boy who was snagged by somebody called Spook. And all the kids are, of course, afraid of this man called Spook. Later on in the book, it's revealed that Spook did get caught in the law by peeking in people's windows, sneaking into people's houses, but this was due to him being autistic. And what brought about that was that his mother was a little loony in the head, so she raised him to be that way, and she kind of shut him off, so it kind of made his autism even worse. So the kids were just all kind of scared of this man named Spook. The legend in the town was that he actually murdered a 5-year-old boy named Bucky. as the story goes on, it's later revealed that Bucky was not in fact killed by Spook, but by somebody among them in their town. This person had murdered Bucky when they were a child, and they were now a teenager. So, yeah, the story is kind of around how murder can affect a small town, and how somebody who got away with murder can be completely guilt-ridden, and it can affect them in their everyday life until it affects them to the point of their own death. So, you know, it's a very good read. It's pretty easy since, you know, of course it is for kids, but it also captures the adult attention as well. You know, reading this book, it definitely made me feel like I was a kid again, because it was very 90s based or 80s based, I feel. All the kids during summer break were just playing in the woods. They said that right when the sun came up, they all went outside to play tag and play their little games. Then when the afternoon hot sun came in, they all went indoors and they ate their lunch and kind of played some indoor games. And then when the evening finally came about, they would come out and play again. So I definitely remember that being kind of along the lines of my summer vacation when I was about 11 or 12, such as the main character in this book. And then also kind of the author did a great job of kind of portraying how a kid thinks. You know, this young character was basically told a deep, dark secret, and she really wanted to reveal this to all the adults around her, but she couldn't, because she feared that she would get in trouble. And I definitely remember when I was a little girl, you know, I would be afraid of the same thing. You know, I would keep it among us kids because we didn't want the adults to find out about that, because we would get in trouble, you know, or the fear of getting in trouble. Even though, looking back at this book and her point of view, if I was an adult in this situation and she went about the truth and told me that, you know, she wouldn't get in trouble. So it's just funny to think how kids actually think. And, you know, being a kid author myself and starting my own children's book line, this book was very helpful to help navigate me towards speaking in a more childlike voice and their mentality. Even their ways of speaking, it wasn't perfect English, you know, as it shouldn't be, because when kids speak, they might repeat things, they might, you know, say words differently depending how old they are. The author did a great job portraying that as well. And then the adults in this book, I think the author did a great job with those as well, because a lot of the times the main character would say that my aunt says that this family is trash, but I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't call them trash. I should just call them unfortunate. And, you know, I feel like that's a very adult thing that the aunt would have told her. You know, like, because adults kind of speak crap about each other all the time, but then of course they don't want the kids relaying that information to the family, so they just kind of tell them a more polite way to say it, or how you should actually go about functioning in society. So I just thought that this was, you know, a really good, easy read. It kept my attention. The one thing I didn't really like about this was that the author kind of went on a little bit of a tangent, especially towards the ending. You know, it was a page turner trying to solve this mystery that she had between Spook, the actual killer of Bucky, and then Bucky, the missing child. And then kind of out of nowhere, you know, she just had the main character go on a beach vacation for a chapter. So it just took her away from the whole scene that was unfolding in this clearing, you know, so it just took her away from the whole scene. And I was like, what's the purpose of this? She's just talking about having a beach vacation. She basically skipped the main climax and went right to the conclusion, because when the character returned from the beach vacation, she just found out the results of this mystery. So, like, she didn't even experience it herself. So that's the one fault of the book. You know, I wasn't a very big fan of the ending. The ending was a bit tragic for a children's book. But another thing that I found very interesting about this book was that they didn't shy away from talking about murder or blood or death. They didn't shy away from any of that. So that's good news, because I've always been kind of hesitant on mentioning that in my own children's books. But the author kind of sidestepped any gory details and everything. She kind of just left it with blood, and then that was that. Like one sentence about blood, and then she would move on to the next thing. So death was just kind of treated as more like a part of life or a situation. The character didn't act particularly afraid of it or anything. She didn't go on about it. She just said that, you know, oh, it was a very unsightly thing, and you know, no wonder she didn't see the person who died in the casket. So it was just kind of very vague surrounding the death itself, but it was more kind of focusing on how the death took a toll on the townspeople and the people related to the person who died. So I thought that was interesting how the author tackled death in a children's book, and I definitely will kind of take some tips from that. If you're a big fan of reading Goosebumps, Bone Chillers, I highly suggest reading The Clearing by Dorothy Reynold Miller. I just picked up this book at a thrift store. This is to kind of encourage you to look around your own old used bookstores, thrift shops, and don't be afraid to pick up a random author. You never know what you'll dig up. So yeah, and I thought this was cool how this was the author's first published novel. It really is inspirational, especially how it won the Mystery Writers of America Edgar Award. So I thought that was pretty interesting. But yeah, that is my book review for this month. Next month I will be reviewing another indie author, so definitely stay tuned for that. But thank you so much for tuning into my YouTube channel once again, and I hope you have a glorious rest of your week.